Hello everyone, Stephanie Haney here. Welcome back again to 3 News Now. Here is your afternoon update for Thursday, May 14th with our top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. We do now have the latest numbers in from the Ohio Department of Health related to COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio, and we are up today in every single category from the numbers that we saw yesterday. That includes new reported cases, new reported deaths, new reported hospitalizations, and new reported ICU admissions. Now, just to remind you why it is that we are looking at these numbers every day, comparing them on a day-to-day basis, it's because we are looking for a downward trajectory of documented cases within a 14-day period. That is something that has been put in place by the guidelines under the Trump administration as states move to reopen, even though Ohio is moving ahead with reopening in its phase 1 version of that, which has already begun underway and takes more effect tomorrow here in the state of Ohio. And do keep in mind that there are delays in reporting cases. So infections and deaths that are reported today could have been identified days ago, but we are working with the best information that we have, the most up-to-date information that we have from the Ohio Department of Health. So here are where those numbers currently stand. Today, we now have a total of 26,357 reported cases of COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio. Again, that is under the expanded CDC definition. That includes both confirmed positive cases and probable cases of COVID-19. That is 636 new cases up from yesterday. Yesterday at this time, we saw 471 new cases, which was pretty in line with what we saw on Tuesday, where we saw 473 new cases. On Monday, however, we saw numbers similar to what we're seeing today. Monday, we saw 696 new cases. So after 2 days of a decrease, we are now back up again today and have 636 new cases reported as of today of COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio. The total number of deaths reported as of today at 2 p.m. on Thursday, May 14th is now 1,534 deaths. That's an increase of 51 deaths reported from yesterday. It's a slight increase from what we saw on Wednesday when we saw 47 new deaths. But that was down, however, from what we saw on Tuesday. On Tuesday, we saw 79 new deaths reported, which was the third largest day-to-day increase that we have seen in the total number of deaths in COVID-19 since we first became aware that it was present here in Ohio, which was on March 9th. In terms of the number of total hospitalizations, now this number is the total number of hospitalizations since we first became aware of COVID-19 in Ohio. The first reported case, which was March 9th. By the way, antibody testing has now shown that COVID-19 was in Ohio as early as January, but the first reported confirmed case we have of that is March 9th. So now we have a total number of 4,718 hospitalizations related to COVID-19. That is over the life of the known existence of COVID-19 here in Ohio. So from yesterday, that's 100 new hospitalizations. That's up from 79 new hospitalizations on Wednesday. On Tuesday, we saw a larger number. We saw 126 new hospitalizations on Tuesday. So that's been bouncing around this week because on Monday, we saw 62 new hospitalizations. So the number of new hospitalizations has really been going like this, and today we see 100 new hospitalizations. So we are up again from yesterday. And in terms of new intensive care unit admissions, now the total number of intensive care unit admissions, again, from the entire life of COVID-19 here in Ohio that we are aware of, there have been 1,268 ICU admissions related to COVID-19 symptoms. That marks 20 new ICU admissions reported today. That's up from 16 new reported ICU admissions on Wednesday, 15 new reported ICU admissions on Tuesday, 12 new reported ICU admissions on Monday, and if we take it back to Sunday, there were 5 new reported ICU admissions. So again, as I said, we are up in every single category today: new reported cases, new reported deaths, new reported hospitalizations, and new reported ICU admissions. Now let's take a look at how the worldwide and countrywide numbers are looking. Here in the U.S., we continue to stay steady with that number of about 1/3 of known worldwide cases and deaths. Here in the U.S., We now have a total of 1,400,500 reported cases of COVID-19. That's up 20,500 from yesterday. In terms of the number of deaths, we now have 84,985 reported deaths here in the country. That is 1,835 new deaths from yesterday. According to CNN, which has been analyzing data from Johns Hopkins University, that's where these numbers all come from that I just told you. In the U.S., the number of known cases is doubling every month at this time. That's the rate of increased new cases here in the U.S. Worldwide, there are now a total of 4,405,000 COVID-19 cases, and that's 92,000 new cases up from yesterday. Almost 100,000 new cases of COVID-19 around the globe from yesterday. And the number of deaths is now 299,873 related to COVID-19. That is 5,226 new deaths since reported yesterday globally. Now, as Ohio begins getting further into phase one of reopening, there are 2 Ohio state senators who have introduced a bill to immediately end the shutdown. Keep in mind, tomorrow 90% of Ohio's economy will reopen. However, Republicans in our state legislature are becoming more and more vocal in their opposition to Governor Mike DeWine's handling of the economy and orders put in place by Ohio Department of Health Director Dr. Amy Acton. So this new bill, Senate Bill 311, it would repeal the Stay Safe Ohio order, which does still include a stay-at-home provision for people, telling people if they don't need to go do things that they should stay at home. If you can work from home, you should be staying at home and doing that. And it would also repeal the prohibition of mass gatherings and school operations, which have been canceled in person through the end of summer. There was another bill introduced, Senate Bill 1, that passed the House of Representatives last week, that was suggesting limiting Dr. Amy Acton's power if she orders something, that it would only be effective for 14 days unless voted on to be allowed to continue past that point by a bipartisan committee. So this would also do that. However, the difference here, Senate Bill 311, it would end immediately all current orders. In the previous bill in Senate Bill 1, they were going to let orders that were currently in place continue for 90 days, except for the Stay Safe Ohio order, which they would have stopped after 14 days. So Senator Christina Rogner, who is a Republican representing Hudson, is co-sponsoring Senate Bill 311 with Senator Rob McCauley, a Republican representing Napoleon. Now, keep in mind, Governor Mike DeWine has said that if Senate Bill 1 passes, he hasn't spoken specifically on Senate Bill 311, which is the bill that we're talking about right now, but if Senate Bill 1 did pass, Governor DeWine did say he would veto that bill. And based on the makeup of the Democrats and the Republicans in the Ohio State Legislature, they don't have the votes if they are to vote along party lines in order to override a veto by the governor. So we can all keep that in mind and follow those bills closely as they proceed through our Ohio State Legislature. Now, we did previously talk about the University of Akron cutting budgets because of a loss of revenue, largely in part related to the loss of college athletics. So in order to account for that, they will be cutting some sports. They'll be cutting men's cross country and golf and women's tennis. They announced this in a press release today. It's part of the new plan to restructure, and that will leave the school with 17 sports teams, 7 men's sports, and 10 women's sports. The elimination of these sports, along with salary reductions for select coaches, staff position eliminations, scholarship and operating expenditure reductions, all of that together will cut their budget by about $4.4 million. $4.4 million. And the people who will be impacted by this, in addition to those positions that will no longer be employed by the University of Akron, are 23 male athletes and 9 female athletes. So the school has said that they did tell the students today, and they are hoping to give them as much time as possible to pursue other opportunities if they wish to continue their college athletics career. However, the harsh reality is that many schools are in the same position, many state schools are in the same position, and they are cutting athletic programs. So Hopefully those students at the University of Akron will be able to find a place where they'll be able to continue to compete in those cross-country competitions, those golf competitions, and those tennis competitions once it becomes safe for those sports to continue again, hopefully in the upcoming academic year. Director of Athletics Larry Williams said that many factors were accounted for before making these incredibly difficult decisions, including program costs and facilities. When we take a look at other educational situations here in the state of Ohio, the Ohio State Board of Education is now coming up with ideas for how school might look in the fall. Now, of course, we're talking about our K through 12 education at this point. So they've released a draft of guidelines for local districts. That was at this week's monthly meeting. So the guidelines are called Reset and Restart. Now, this is just a framework, so nothing is final at this time, but it was put together with the help of teachers, administrators, parents, and students who all came together to come up with these ideas. One suggestion is face masks, which would be required for all students and teachers under this framework, which again is not final. This is a proposal at this point. Other things included in the framework include students having their temperature taken daily before leaving home. And while actual attendance would still be a focus, it would be balanced with a priority for keeping students and employees safe and healthy. Physical distancing would also be key under this plan, with gatherings of 10 people or more prohibited. Now, it's not clear exactly how that would impact classroom settings, which typically have more than 10 students in a classroom. But according to the framework, visitors would be basically banned, and all desks would be positioned at least 6 feet apart, and then the public surfaces such as stair handrails, door handles, desks would be cleaned regularly, and hand sanitizer would be readily available to everyone throughout the building. Now, this framework is expected to be altered as the weeks go by, and it is important to note that local districts will also appear to have a fair amount of leeway in determining what they think is best and what works for their individual situations. We have more details about that on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. As things do begin to reopen, something that people are very concerned about, and rightfully so, are airlines and flight travel and how the airlines are keeping people safe. So our 3 News investigative team checked that out. 3 News investigator Rachel Polanski took a look at procedures that are being put in place as domestic travel begins to open back up like so many other things. Some of the questions that were asked were, are they requiring masks or facial coverings? Are they requiring temperature checks? Is cleaning being done between each flight? And are they providing more space for physical distancing? Rachel Polanski found that airlines, except Allegiant, are requiring masks or face coverings. And while major U.S. airlines have endorsed temperature check for passengers, only Frontier has actually required temperature checks for passengers at this point. Now, in regards to cleaning procedures, every single airline told Rachel Polanski that they've increased cleaning and disinfectant routines aboard planes, with many paying special or close attention to frequently touched surfaces like handles, armrests, call buttons, light buttons, and those vents that control your air conditioning flow. She also found that most airlines have limited either the amount of passengers on board per flight or restricted access to some seats to account for that physical distancing. Now, it was just a couple days ago that there was a Washington Post article about a flight where it was promised that there would be no one seated in the middle seats. However, while many people on the flight did have masks, there were people in every single seat. Tons of people. So be aware, contact your airline, ask them what they're doing before you're traveling. Make sure it's something that you personally are comfortable with so you don't find yourself in a situation where you are stuck somewhere with no way to get home unless you are forced into a situation that you did not sign up for. So we thank Rachel Polanski for doing that investigative work for us. That's very important to know as people look to begin being mobile again throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. Now, one thing that we have talked a lot about is how this is just not what we're used to when it comes to graduating or when it comes to the school situation. But here is a happy story about something that is definitely not the norm when it comes to higher education. A 14-year-old can now call herself a Tri-C graduate, and she is just getting started. This is Amber Bennett, who, by the way, comes from a whole family of people who are just doing incredible things here. So Amber Bennett started taking college classes at age 11, and now she has earned her associate's degree before even beginning the 10th grade. So she is still in high school at this point, but she's got her associate's degree, so well on her way to finishing up that bachelor's degree. And Amber is still very much a typical teenager. She loves the Cleveland Cavaliers. She loves to sing. Her inspiring accomplishment is all thanks to hard work and Tri-C's College Credit Plus program, which we do have linked on WKYC.com and our WKYC app if that's something you think you might be interested in. So Amber's Tri-C counselor, Matt Castle, said that it's a really great program for students who are motivated. They can go ahead and use the opportunity to complete college credit and earn high school credit at the same time. Castle was already familiar with the Bennett family because he was older sister Angel Bennett's counselor too. She graduated 2 years ago at the age of 16 from the same program, and the younger sister in the family, Anita Bennett, is next. She will be starting her college journey next semester at age 11. So one of them graduates, another one pops back in. The Bennett family is really taking advantage of that program. And again, if you think that might be something interesting to someone in your life, you can check that out on WKYC.com. That's it for our 3 News Now afternoon update. Next up, we have What's New at 5 p.m. We also have Governor Mike DeWine's press conference in process right now. We're expected to hear more about swimming pools, campgrounds, and other outdoor activities as the summer gets underway here very shortly, and Ohio takes significant steps towards reopening 90% of the economy tomorrow. So after that, then we have What's New at 5 p.m. I'll see you there. That's on 3 News, also on WKYC.com, our WKYC app, and on YouTube. And then after that, we have continuing coverage on What Matters Most at 6 p.m., on Front Row at 7 p.m., and What's Next at 11 p.m. And of course, I'll see you back here tomorrow morning on Friday at 11 a.m. Everyone have a great rest of your day. I'll see you at What's New at 5, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. I'm Stephanie Haney.